Welcome to the English Vault. Today, we follow Sabrina Carpenter, an artist who learned that a small voice can become a brave one when the world keeps asking it to be louder. Before the bright stages, before the hit songs, before the confident smile in interviews, there was a girl watching the door and wondering if it would ever open for her. Her story is not only about fame, it is about patience, timing, and the quiet courage to keep showing up when the answer is still no. Chapter 1: The Girl Before the Spotlight. Sabrina Carpenter grew up in Pennsylvania, far from the giant studios where careers can seem to begin overnight. In her house, music was not a distant dream. It was something alive, something that moved through rooms, family moments, and small performances that felt bigger than they looked. She was young, but she already understood a feeling many people meet later in life. She wanted to be seen, but she did not want to lose herself in the process. She wanted applause, but she also wanted the work behind the applause to mean something. That is a hard balance. When a dream begins early, people often treat it like a cute phase. They smile, they encourage, and then they wait to see if the child will forget. Sabrina did not forget. She kept singing, she kept acting, she kept practicing the difficult art of sounding natural after doing the same line again and again. The first lesson of her journey is easy to miss because it does not look dramatic. It looks like repetition. It looks like a young person trying, correcting, listening, and trying again. No spotlight can replace that foundation. A stage can reveal confidence, but it rarely creates it. Even then, the dream carried pressure. Every audition asked the same silent question: "Are you ready yet?" Every waiting room was full of people with talent, charm, and hunger. Sabrina had to learn that wanting something deeply did not make the path shorter. It only made the waiting more honest. Chapter 2: The Audition Room. An audition room is a strange place. It can look simple from the outside: a camera, a few people, a line to say, a song to sing. But inside that room, a young performer must do something very difficult. She must be prepared without becoming stiff. She must be hopeful without looking desperate. She must show personality in a few seconds, then walk away without knowing what anyone truly thought. Sabrina entered that kind of room many times. Some doors opened a little. Some closed quickly. Some seemed promising and then disappeared into silence. This is one of the hidden parts of entertainment that audiences rarely see. The public sees the role that happened. It does not see the roles that almost happened, the calls that never came, or the little private recoveries after disappointment. For Sabrina, the audition room became a classroom without a teacher at the front. It taught timing. It taught control. It taught how to lose gracefully and still return with energy. It taught her that rejection is not always an insult. Sometimes it is simply a mismatch, a schedule, a look, a tone, a decision made in another room by people carrying their own pressures. That understanding did not remove the pain. It made the pain useful. She began building a professional muscle that many artists need, but few people celebrate: emotional recovery. A performer who cannot recover becomes afraid. A performer who can recover becomes dangerous in the best way, because she keeps learning while others stop. Then came a bigger door, a door connected to television, young audiences, and a machine that could lift a face into millions of homes. It looked like a breakthrough. It was also a new kind of test. Chapter 3: Disney and the First Identity. When Sabrina became known through Disney Channel, especially to young viewers, she received a gift and a challenge at the same time. The gift was visibility. Suddenly, people knew her name. They recognized her face. They connected her with a character, a feeling, and a moment in their own childhood. The challenge was that visibility can become a box. When audiences meet you in one version, They often want you to stay there. They remember the role before they see the person. They attach innocence, humor, or sweetness to you, and then they become surprised when you grow. Sabrina had to live inside that tension. She could be grateful for the platform and still feel the edges of it. She could love the fans who found her there and still know that the character was not the whole map of her life. This is one of the central conflicts in many creative careers. The thing that introduces you can also limit you. So she began doing what artists do when they want more room. She made music, she wrote, she performed beyond the frame people expected. At first, that move can confuse the audience. Some people ask, why change? But growth is not betrayal. Growth is the cost of staying alive as an artist. Her early music gave her a second language. Acting had taught her how to carry emotion through another person's story. Music asked her to carry emotion through her own. That shift matters. When a singer puts her own perspective into a song, the audience does not only hear melody, it hears the outline of a private world. Still, the road from young star to adult artist is crowded with traps. Too much rebellion can feel forced. Too much caution can feel empty. Sabrina needed a third path, one that let her be playful, honest, sharp, and human without pretending the past never existed. Chapter 4. Learning to be misunderstood. Every public artist eventually meets misunderstanding. Sometimes it comes from rumors, sometimes from comparisons, sometimes from a single phrase taken out of context. For Sabrina, growing up in public meant that people could watch her change and then argue about what that change meant. This is where her story becomes more than a career timeline. It becomes a study in self-possession. When many strangers have opinions about your voice, your image, your choices, and your future, you can start making decisions only to control the noise. That path is exhausting. It gives the crowd too much power. Sabrina's stronger path was quieter. She kept sharpening the work. She leaned into wit. She used humor as a shield, but also as a window. She allowed songs to carry complexity. Confidence mixed with doubt. Flirtation mixed with loneliness. Glitter mixed with a small bruise underneath. That combination made her more interesting. A perfect image is easy to admire and easy to forget. A layered image stays with people. It gives them something to return to. In Sabrina's case, the layers made the music feel less like a brand exercise and more like a person learning how to speak in her own rhythm. There is a brave kind of patience in that. Not passive patience, active patience. The kind that keeps writing when the room is not fully listening yet. The kind that allows the world to catch up without begging it to hurry. And then, slowly, the timing began to change. The songs felt sharper. The performances felt more certain. The artist who had once been introduced through someone else's story was getting ready to own the center of her own. Chapter 5. Emails, Honesty, and a Sharper Voice. With the album era around Emails I Can't Send, Sabrina stepped into a more personal kind of storytelling. The title itself suggested something intimate, messages held back, feelings edited, truths that almost left the body but stayed inside the screen. That idea connected because many people know it. Everyone has words they did not send. The music did not rely only on polished confidence. It made room for embarrassment, regret, attraction, anger, and humor. That range helped Sabrina sound less like a former child star trying to prove adulthood, and more like a writer turning real tension into shape. This matters because artistic maturity is not just about being older, it is about being more exact. It is about knowing the difference between a feeling and the cleanest way to express it. It is about choosing details that make listeners say, "Yes, I have felt that too." Sabrina's voice, both literally and creatively, became more specific. She could be sweet without being weak. She could be funny without avoiding pain. She could be stylish without losing the emotional center. The songs began to carry a stronger signature, the sense that they could not belong to just anyone. That is when a career often turns. Not when every person approves, but when the work starts becoming unmistakable. Approval can be borrowed, a signature must be built. The bigger audience was still coming. But by this point, Sabrina had already done some of the most important work. She had survived the transition years. She had accepted that being underestimated was not the end of the story. It was material. It was fuel. It was a line in a song waiting for the right melody. Chapter 6. The Moment the Room Got Bigger. When a song like Espresso exploded into public attention, it looked sudden to many listeners. One season, a person is respected by fans. Then one song travels everywhere, and the world acts as if it has discovered something new. But what looks sudden from the outside is often slow from the inside. The voice that sounded effortless had been trained by years of work. The confidence that looked playful had been shaped by years of being watched, judged, and compared. The timing of a catchy phrase came from the instincts of someone who had lived with performance long enough to understand how a small detail can hold attention. This is why Sabrina's rise carries an important lesson. Breakthroughs are rarely pure accidents. They are moments when preparation meets a cultural opening. The world becomes ready for a sound, a mood, a face, a kind of energy. The artist still has to be ready when that opening arrives. For Sabrina, the room became bigger. More interviews, bigger stages, louder expectations, more eyes. Success did not remove pressure. It changed its shape. Before, the question was, will people notice? After success, the question becomes, can you stay honest while everyone is watching? That question is not easy. Popularity can tempt an artist to repeat the same move until it becomes flat. It can tempt a team to protect the formula instead of the person. But Sabrina's best strength was not only the viral hook, it was her ability to keep the tone personal, clever, and alive. In the middle of bright success, she still carried the older lesson from the audition room. Walk in prepared. Give the moment everything. Then leave enough of yourself intact to walk into the next room. Chapter 7. Confidence with a Human Shadow. Sabrina's public image often feels sparkling. Blonde hair, sharp styling, bright hooks, a quick joke, a stage presence that seems to wink at the audience. But the reason that image works is that it is not empty. Behind the sparkle, there is a human shadow. A human shadow is not a scandal. It is the sense that a person has lived through doubt, waiting, and private pressure. It is what keeps confidence from becoming plastic. When Sabrina sings with humor, the humor lands because it does not erase vulnerability. When she appears fearless, the fear has not vanished. It has been organized into performance. That is a powerful model for anyone building a life in public or in private. Confidence does not always mean walking into the room with no nervousness. Sometimes confidence means walking in with nervousness and refusing to let it make the decision. Her story also challenges a simple idea about success. People often say, "Be yourself," as if the self is one finished thing. Sabrina's path suggests something more interesting. You become yourself through a series of choices. You test an image. You outgrow it. You keep the parts that are true. You release the parts that were only useful for survival. That process can be uncomfortable. Some people will prefer your old version because it asks less from them. Some will only understand you after the world approves. Some will never understand at all. But if the work becomes more honest, the misunderstanding loses power. By the time Sabrina stood fully in her own pop moment, the story was not only about a catchy song or a stylish era. It was about a person who had learned how to keep changing without apologizing for every change. Chapter 8. What Her Story Leaves Behind. The inspiring part of Sabrina Carpenter's journey is not that every dream came true in a straight line. It is that the line was never straight, and she kept walking anyway. She moved from small rooms to audition rooms, from television sets to recording studios, from being recognized as a young actor to being heard as an artist with her own point of view. That movement required patience, it required discipline, it required the ability to accept help without surrendering identity. It required a sense of humor, strong enough to survive judgment, and a sense of purpose, steady enough to survive praise. For anyone listening, the lesson is not to copy her career. The lesson is to notice the pattern. A beginning can be real and still be incomplete. A first identity can open the door and still not be the final room. Being underestimated can hurt, but it can also give you time to build in private. Sabrina's story says that growth does not need to be loud at every step. Sometimes it sounds like another rehearsal. Sometimes it looks like another draft. Sometimes it is a quiet decision not to let one version of you become a cage. And maybe that is why her rise feels satisfying. It did not erase the younger girl with the dream. It connected her to the woman standing under brighter lights, still using timing, humor, and feeling to turn pressure into art. If this story stayed with you, keep one line close. The room can change, the audience can change, and the noise can change. But the work you build in silence can still find its way to the stage. Keep listening, keep growing, and come back to the English Vault for the next story.